So, an advice I would have for somebody that's in this space is that the only way that you're going to really be able to stick out and be unequivocally you is that
Hello, everybody. Christian from Treasure Town here, and I'm joined by Isaiah, who's part of Treasure Town, but Drew Haddock, our main guest, owner of Acousha Collectibles. He has his own YouTube channel that's quite popular, and he's a coin dealer down south, much more sort of on the ground, hitting more coin shows than I would go to on a regular basis, but has his strong own social media following. But we're going to be talking about a lot of what's going on, some tips that he has, a lot of the experience he's living. So great to have you, Drew.
thank you, Christian, and thank you, Isaiah, for having me on. I appreciate it.
So I think today maybe we just sort of start out with a little bit of a basic question. What's been going on in the market? Things were really hot through COVID. We're about 2 months out at this point from that initial people getting sent home in March and staying in. Sort of what's been the difference maybe in the past 3-4 months compared to the super hot market before then?
If we took it back, 3 or 4 years, a lot of stuff has dramatically increased, and we can even associate that with gas prices and everything else. But I do see that people getting back to work, people getting more busy and less screen time. It really can cut down on who's interested in coins, and then also can cut down, then in retrospect, on those dealers that want to buy for their clients. So getting people back to work and getting people back on the marketplace, it just gets them busy, and they end up saving more money than spending it. And that's kind of my take on the market right now. People are just getting back to work, and I hope it does well. But yeah, that's my answer for that.
And do you think that we're actually seeing a slowdown? Is it like, so we have a run up in price? Are things leveling out? Are they taking an active dip or just increasing at a slower rate? What's your sense?
Yeah, I mean, the question that I toss back between myself and my brother is, are we at a bubble, or are we at the new low? Are we at the new floor for numismatics? And really, there's really no way for me to tell you honestly, because it's just like predicting the stock market and other things. You have to kind of have a crystal ball. But like most kind of coin dealers would tell you, find the coins that you like and find the coins that you want in your collection for 50 years, and you'll be fine with that.
Yeah, and then as sort of a dealer going through and like what's giving you the signals that this is actually happening? Are you going to shows and people are just not paying it and buying tons of materials sort of with the same vigor that they were before, where you've got people who immediately have a buyer and things sell out quickly? Are you having to just price the coins lower or put more effort into who you're selling them to? Like what's sort of informing that?
So a lot of the formation of everything that's been going on with me is that we go to shows, and there doesn't seem to be much material coming to shows. So we would find old holders, we would find really nice rare coins, stuff, diamond in the rough kind of things. And then as of lately, I think that once there's that lower in demand, but also when people aren't home, they aren't listing their coins on eBay, they aren't going to shows to trade them. So everyone was out buying, and the prices were going up. And I think a lot of collectors just say, I'm going to stay home, and then I'm going to go to work, and then I'm not going to really be going into the marketplace to exchange these coins. So I think a lot of the shows that I've seen recently have just been just very hard to find good coins. But I don't see a lot of wavering in terms of pricing in the market. But it's hard to tell, because asking a lot of dealers, they don't give you too much information. It's all really about how I felt the temperature either rising or cooling since the beginning of us dealing in coins.
And maybe we step back a little bit just to understand, like, you as a young coin dealer, what is your sort of 2022 coin dealing business model? We have viewers of all ages who've been in the hobby for a long time or a short time. Like, what are the primary factors, and how are you, making a profit, supporting yourself, putting food on the table with the business?
Right. So what we kind of do, and what our different approach when it comes to coin shows now, is that there's people that are kind of willing to spend a lot of money on coins, and there's people that are going to be a little bit more reserved on spending money on coins. And the way that we've really been chasing our profit margin is we've been going after coins that give us 20% or more in profit margin. And the reason why that's good is because you get that a little bit more profit on that coin, but also you're not spending as much. You're being a little bit more selective. So if there is a turn in the market, then you do have that opportunity to have that room. So say if you have 20% margin on a coin and you can make that in the next 3 months, but say in the next 6 months the market falls out and you lose, everything goes down 25%, you're still in a good spot. So for a lot of the new and upcoming, up and coming coin dealers, I would say be very careful of what you pick, and also be careful of what you want to spend your money on, because you may walk into a 200 dealer show with $10,000, and you can make everything in the room you can make 10% on, but at the end of the day, you're going to be wanting to find things that make you the best money and also give you a way out.
So that sounds great in terms of targeting a few of the higher percentage, coins, and I'm sure that there's some that are, well above a 20%. Do you have any specific examples? If you can remember the grades, that would be great. And sort of the prices paid. Maybe you cracked it out, sent it in, it upgraded. Maybe you sent it to CAC, but just some of the types of materials that you've had some hits or doubles, triples, home runs on recently.
So this might be a part of the next question, but we're going to include this in this question. Like we've been focusing on 3-cent silvers and ones that are a little bit lower mintage. So we bought an 1866 3-cent silver, and it was a proof, and it was in proof 65 from NGC. It had some kind of terminal toning, but really liquid fields. A few kind of spots holding it back from Cameo. But we bought that at the show in Mississippi for $13.50, and then we sold it for $1,900 when we got home. So that covered all the costs of the whole show, and everything else that we bought was just, it was just cake on top. So there's a great thing that you guys should, follow. And we've talked to a few dealers, and they said that basically when they go to a show, they're looking for that winner. They're looking for that coin that covers all their costs, and then the rest of the coins that they're looking for can just be, like I said, cake on top. So that's kind of one of our wins, but also something recently that we've been selling pretty good with, just because a lot of those, a little bit more of expensive coins go to market at Heritage, and then they sell for, 50% over what price guy would say it is. So, just keeping an eye out on what's available, and a little bit of a tougher coin is always the best thing to sell.
Okay, and I have a little, in terms of those tougher coins, maybe there's a little more risk if there is a pullback, but sounds like you priced it right and knew you had a buyer. Are you seeing a lot of the successes be, you sell that coin when you get home to a dealer, or is that because you have a big client list? Then I think after this, Isaiah has a question.
So I would say, basically, we sold that coin to a dealer, and we have certain client lists for certain coins. So say, there's commemoratives, there's half dollars, all that type of stuff. Right now, we really have a lot of collectors that like commemoratives. So about 80 to 90% of the commemoratives we get in, we never post on the website. We just sell them. And then there's a lot of stuff like Indian head cents or a little bit of a rare coin. We would sell to a dealer. But ultimately, at the end of the day, you want to move that more to a collector base. But I would say most of it right now would be about dealer to dealer stuff.
Yeah, and Drew, you're talking a lot about these winners and coins that have a pretty good margin on them. So can you recount any examples when you kind of bit the risk and maybe fell flat on your face, or just had a mishap happen?
Yeah, that's a great question, Isaiah. We went to the Pan show about, I think, 6 or 8 months ago, something in between there, and we ended up buying a 20-cent piece from 1876. It's a little bit of a lower mintage, and seeing the coin in hand when we bought it, it had some hairlines on it, and so we wanted to give it a go again and see if it would upgrade. And we've sent it in about 3 times now after cracking it out, and it's come back on details every time. And it was a mid-state coin, so I mean, I think we probably lost about $800 on that coin. So that was one of my bigger losers for sure this year. But yeah, that's a good question. A lot of people ask about the wins, but I think it's good to have the losses in there too.
What have you really learned out of that? Just that one experience with the hairlines.
So what I would recommend is don't buy coins with hairlines, because if you do, they might let you through once, but they're not going to let you through again. That's just my opinion. Sometimes they're they say it's okay. There's certain circumstances where they let stuff through, or I could find a coin at a show and I would look to see if it would cack, and the coin would have hairlines on it. And I know it wouldn't cack, but if I crack that coin out today and send it back in, it would go unk details. So what I would say is do as much research as you can beforehand, and once, we create more videos and more content, a lot of that will be apparent for sure.
And I think
Cool.
sort of going off of that, and it'll lead into another question. Like we have these losses, what are some of the things you're thinking? How do you like think about cost going to a show, and like when it's worth it to go to a show, travel X amount? There's hotels, there's gas, there's lots of different costs. So what's sort of your mentality in terms of how you make shows viable, given that that's a big thing you do?
So we try to get it. So we try to get most of our shows within 8 hours of driving, and the reason being is because everything goes up exponentially as you drive. And what I'm saying is basically anything past 8 hours, you have to basically get a hotel room. You have to get food multiple days. You're also having to stay somewhere when you're there. And so if you're going anywhere like above 8 hours, you're ended up spending $1,000, $1,500, $2,000. And so a lot of that really is just out of our wheelhouse right now. So the Mississippi one was pretty good, and it's a great example because we only drove 6 hours each way. It was an easy one-day trip, and then we got everything done. And that's kind of where we anchor ourselves from driving and the cost perspective. And we actually just bought a car that would drive us, and it'd go about 45 miles per gallon. So that would save us on fuel costs. So basically, the way I would ask people or check on people to approach coin shows is that, is it okay for you to spend that much money, and will you be able to make it back when you're buying coins at the show? And thankfully, the right coins were at that show, and we didn't have too much cost going into it, and it ended up doing very well. And the best way you can, do better at this over time is that you just get better at looking for great coins and then knowing where to sell them at. And then you'll be able to go to those bigger shows and spend that $2,000, $3,000 to get there.
Yeah, and with the shows, there's larger shows, there's more small local shows, there's like the national ones where a bunch of people are flying in. What do you think the big differences are between, a local or regional coin show and then something much larger?
Well, the big difference that I'm seeing right now is that the local shows, the inventory is a little bit more dried up, and I've seen at the bigger shows that they're willing to spend tons and tons of money on great coins, and that's why a lot of people go to those big shows. But when you go to a booth at a big show and they bought half their coins from Heritage, and they paid the top of the roof in terms of premium, that's a little bit challenging for a bigger show perspective. But for a smaller show, if you go there, you drive 3 hours, and then you get there and there's not much. They're selling Morgan dollars that are mint state 62. It basically is, you have to be very selective on where you want to go and how you want to spend your time. And they both have their pros and cons for sure.
And do you think that a lot of your big wins come from the smaller shows, after having developed a better eye where you can do something like that, 1350 to 1900 flip on the 3 cent silver? Or are they when you're really sourcing premium material from some of the larger shows, even if you pay up for it?
Well, I've realized that a lot of the smaller shows for us is a better thing, because say that the dealers that you really like are halfway across the country, and the only time you see them is when you spend $2,000 to get there, right? And what we've been trying to focus on locally is that, do you know the dealer? Do you talk to the dealer? Do you have their phone number? Will you be the first person at the door at the coin show? And if you are, great coins end up being there. But it ends up being just for the select few, right? So say that we actually went to a coin show recently that was 3 hours away. It was the Collin County Coin Show. We got there the night before, and we sat out in the lobby for an hour and a half before the show opened. And that's just so we can make sure we get the coins that everybody else wanted. So what I would say is just, focus on the local connections that you have first, because at the end of the day, if you grow those connections and you create relationships, those will end up making you the most money, as opposed to flying out to all these bigger shows. It's just for starting out, though. I know there's some big wigs that know what they're doing and they have a lot of great people they talk to. But just from the fundamental perspective, starting out small, going to small shows, really will help you in the long run.
And do you have strong relationships that you've made with individual dealers? And like there's, 80 dealers set up, you're going to talk to 10, not really do much with the other 70. And then you visit them every time that show's going on to look for new material? Or are you just sort of, you walk up to anybody and start picking through what they've got?
So basically, we do the old tap on the shoulder, or we say, "Hey, how's your week going?" But everybody knows why you're there, right? For some dealers, we buy them lunch, or we just sit down and talk with them while they're setting up their cases. So a lot of it has to do with where was the last where was the last big win for you. You're going to see the same dealers that move the same stuff in as the old show. They don't really have too many people that they sell to. It's more of just a hobby or something that they enjoy during their retirement. But there's a lot of those guys in that room also that are very hungry and they want to sell you coins, and they always have some decent stuff. So those people will ring in your ears more likely than the people that, just like to move coins back and forth. So what I would say is just know the big wigs in the room and focus on buying from them and cultivating a relationship.
I think in a different direction, one thing I've been thinking about is, how much of the coin market is dealers and how much of it is collectors? Like if you took all the dealers holding inventory, like auctioned off everything that they had with the stipulation that, none of it was for resale in the next 6 months, it's not realistic. But like how much, if the number of dealers holding inventory cut down by half, how much can the coin market absorb, and how much is sort of organic original demand versus demand from dealers who are just buying it to flip it?
Yeah, that's a great question. And once again, it would require a crystal ball. But what you should also add into the mix is auction houses. Auction houses will buy coins from people before they even send them to auction. So, thinking about the billions of dollars that's within collectors' pockets and in their hand, and also for dealers, but there also is the auction houses. They will fly out 6 people to go to a show, and they will dismantle that show, and they will buy everything that they can. So auction houses do have a big stake in this too, just because what they do, just like how Heritage does it, they're very selective on what they put out every single week, and they're also very selective on, like, they'll do old holder sales, or they'll do like key date Morgan sales, and so all of it's very precisely chosen. And so those people also have a lot of stuff that they're holding back, and that they're very, they think they're going to go up in value. And so, yeah, but it's very tough to know that for sure. I hope to know that one day. That'd be great.
Yeah, and in terms of like then thinking about that collector demand, you said a lot of it's sort of, maybe the commemorative side, but you've also been doing a fair amount with 3 cent silvers. Like, do you have any comment on just doing a thought experiment, thinking really what's at the root of these driving forces?
Right. Yeah, I think that at the root of all these driving forces would be, is it the coin that they want at the end of the day? It's like going to like a fast food restaurant, right? You ask for cheese and pickles and whatever else, and then they hand it to you, and you don't even have a chicken sandwich in there, right? There's nothing going on to the sandwich, nothing that you asked for. And so at the end of the day, people are looking for great coins, better dates, and all of that really is driving the market, in my opinion. Like, I would get 10 coins at a show and I would sell 2 of them just because I know that someone would love them and they've been waiting for them. And so back to the kind of what we were talking about earlier, if you're more selective with your inventory, people will flock to you because they know that you have that eye, but also that you're very selective. I think that a lot of dealers get caught up in buying bulk and see if I can move bulk, but there's like 122,000 MS63 1881S Morgans that have been graded. You buying my 1881S Morgan dollar that's MS63, or the dealers next to me for $1 less, that kind of stuff really can weigh down the dealer, but also the market. So like I would say again, focus on the better dates, and those are really going to be driving your business and ultimately help the hobby in the most way, in my opinion.
And how do you navigate that in terms of, it's a great answer, but nice coins, like people are paying up for them. You also want to make a profit. I don't know if you have an example or two that we haven't spoken about, just like case studies where maybe one, you could give us one that you flipped quickly that we haven't talked about, one that you held on to longer and tried to wait out for a higher dollar. And, again, if you know the grades and prices, going in, going out, that would be helpful to think about.
Yeah, there's a lot of great things that have been happening with certain coins, but what I would say is that you know what we look at really when we approach a deal is that what is gray sheet on a coin, and then what is the auction records on a coin. And so we can go back to just to that 3 cent silver that we were talking about. Gray sheet was 1,200. We paid 150 over that for 1350. The recent one that sold at auction from Heritage, which can be found in PCGS Coinfax, was for 2,400. So you have a winner coin or a winner coin when you basically look at gray sheet, but then look at auction records and see that delineation or that really big change in price. And recognizing that the coin, there's only 725 made, that can really put you in a new category, right? Like you don't want to buy a coin that has 35 million made, because once again, that'll put you in a category that's not so favorable. So finding those low mintage coins that people are going to be looking for, but also have that really big gap in terms of gray sheet and what they're currently selling for, you'll end up making more than 10%, and sometimes you'll make 30 or 40%. And so that's kind of a bigger example right now off the top of my head, but it really does work for this, I think.
Along with the last question, Drew, you were talking about like getting bigger coins, better coins, harder to find coins. Like, so have you had any coins that have like just sat in inventory before, or like have sat like longer than you would have liked?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think a bigger coin as of recently that's been sitting for a while has been this 1909 SVDB that we bought. So, the SVDB is, the most sought after coin, but it really, sometimes when you buy a grade that's like really high, ours is a 65 red brown. Sometimes you really need a client for it, or need to be in the group of clients that will pay almost $5,000 for a coin. And so that's one that's been sitting for a while. But what's great about those coins is that if you buy them for the right price, and then you end up waiting that 5 or 6 months, and then it ends up selling for a pretty substantial premium, it really saves you a lot of the grunt work, right?
Yeah.
And what I'm meaning by grunt work is that, Isaiah, you find a coin at a show and you buy it for $80, and then you sell it for $100, and then you have to pay for shipping. Well, great, you made 17%. That's awesome, right? But you have to do that 50 times a day. But sometimes with those bigger coins, you end up waiting, but it ends up saving you so much time because you're putting one coin in a package. You're only having to advertise it one way, in a certain way. And so that's the one we've been holding on for a while, and hoping we can move it soon for sure.
Yeah, no, that's helpful. And I think, I also dealing at college will often sit on things longer than I feel like I should. And those turnovers are huge, but then like the larger ones, can really make a difference. I think one thing I'm thinking about, I know the last time we spoke, you had made a few YouTube videos, hadn't really followed up too much. And then all of a sudden, started making content. And I think I still enjoy really listening to a lot of it. And maybe you could tell us if it's transformed your business to have that. Maybe it's sort of just continued. You see a few more sales here and there, sort of thinking a little bit, taking a step back again with your business model, what it's meant, and whether you'd recommend other people make coin content.
Well, I think the biggest reason why people should make content, and it's really transformed our business, is because basically, I mean, it's not to sound strange or anything, but basically you're shifting public opinion to do certain things that you might want to do, right? So say we want to start merch sales, or say we want to sell coins, or say we want to talk about coins, and then people get interested. But at the end of the day, those people end up being people that want to support you and do the things that you like to do. And so what's been great about the channel is that we've been doing a lot of submissions, and instead of going to shows, you'd go to a show, spend 3 or 4 days getting there. Now we just have people that call us and say, hey, we have $3,000 worth of coins at Gray Sheet. We have $5,000 worth of coins at Gray Sheet. But also, which is a plus, is that people ask us to send stuff to CAC, and also ask us to send stuff to PCGS. And what's great about that, which would revolutionize everyone's business, is that once those coins come home from BCGS or CAC and they don't want those coins, you're literally the first person in line. You don't have to drive anywhere. You don't have to look online. You don't have to wait for people to ship it to you. You have no upfront costs, and everything is available to you. And so, what's been really great about YouTube is that we've had a lot of people that have wanted to support us, but also people that feel like they're a community and can trust us. I mean, we've probably received about $10,000, $12,000 in coins this week that aren't even ours, but we're handling for certain people. And so that's what's been really good about YouTube, and I'm hoping we can do much better as the year progresses.
For sure. It sounds like a lot of good, action as a result. And it sounds like, you're working hard, submitting a lot of things, sending it to CAC, PCGS, grading companies. I'm going to ask about that in a moment. What's your work-life balance? How much are you spending time-wise on coins, and sort of what are you focused? Say it's 10 hours a week, what percentage is focused on dealing, going to, I'd imagine it's 10 hours a week, but, maybe it's 50% dealing, 20% content creation, 30% going to shows. How do you think it breaks down for you?
So I would say we spend about 5 to 10% a week on shows, and on not on shows, but on creating videos. So it all starts with a central premise of what's been going on in our week. Like someone tells me a certain thing, and then I want to address it, or we go to a certain show and I want to film it. A lot of from filming to the end of the editing process would take about 2 to 3 hours a week to do all three videos. For most of the coin dealing stuff and working on all the logistical stuff, I mean, it's probably a 50-50 on those. We don't really I don't really do too much. I mean, it's really just all about your headspace. Are you going to the gym? What's next to be uploaded? What's next to be on the website? Am I answering all the messages? So my work-life balance is complete crap. But I mean, that's just the way it goes for now. And in normal business is about 5 to 7 years. You can hire somebody, you can make things scalable. But for right now, if you're not committed, you won't survive. And so you have to be committed. And that's kind of what we're been doing recently. But hopefully we can get a work-life balance in a few years. That'd be great.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think there's a lot of sort of fruits of working hard. And if it's something you enjoy doing, I always think those are the things to really pour into. And, that can definitely give you a little more longevity in doing that. And you mentioned, I was going to ask anyways, we get pulled in a lot of directions. What do you think, how's the business going to change over the next 5 years? Obviously, maybe a little bit of a call on how the coin industry is going to change, but also if you're going to shift or if you're just going to try to do what you do incrementally better every day.
So I think the best way, honestly, right now to change in the next 5 years for most of us would be moving more into online. How can we make more content? How can we get more eyes watching what we do? How can we get more people involved in the space? How can we get them more excited about the space? All of that really can be done online, and it can be done for a fraction of the cost of a storefront. So the last time we talked, it was about, it was a while ago, but we wanted to, we were thinking about a storefront, but at the end of the day, if we really focus on content, we focus on creating, more interesting content, but also well-developed content that really can get more people excited. And if we can spread that to more people, at the end of the day, that's going to be end up winning. You're just going to reach more people instead of having a storefront. So what I would say in the next 5 years is develop our content better, be able to reach more people with our content, going on TikTok, going on Instagram, going on Facebook, everything broadcasted on all cylinders, and continue to develop connections. We probably have a 20, 25 consistent client base. I mean, if we can get that to 100, 200, and then, a lot of that would be great. And so that's the main points that I would have in the next 5 years. It seems pretty simple, but it does take a lot of thought, as you know, Christian and Isaiah.
Why do you send coins to CAC? That was something I said I wanted to follow up on. What's the advantage there? How important are you seeing CAC, as something where people are maybe only wanting to buy CAC coins? Maybe people care less. Maybe premiums are slightly up, relative to before COVID. How do you think about CAC?
So the way I see CAC in a lot of ways is that um, there's certain collectors that really like CAC and what they do, and just the prestigiousness of what encapsulates the sticker. And so when you're sending stuff to CAC, and for us, like we were talking about earlier, it gets us into a different ballpark with people that want to send stuff to CAC and want to trust us with their coins, but also it gets us into a little bit of a different client level that will say we're not going to buy any coin, we're going to buy the coin that has the CAC sticker. And yeah, like I said, though, it's just opening you up to more groups of people that are in the space that want to buy coins from you. And I think CAC is like any other thing that you might have. Say you buy Morgan dollars, 100 of them, or you have 50 of them, and then one day you say, "Man, I love that Mercury dime," and then you start selling Mercury dimes. It's the same way with CAC. Yeah, you're gonna buy some certain coins, but I think CAC can be like its own category sometimes for people. If the CAC sticker's not on there, they won't buy it. And so that's a great question, but I think CAC is going to be it's gonna be a powerhouse for sure in the next 25 years in numismatics.
So Drew, like going back to what we were talking, you saying that you had a lack of a work-life balance. Would you kind of like walk through what an average day looks like in the Haddock household?
Yeah, I'd be happy to. So I used to wake up at like noon or 11:30, and that was a big mistake because a lot of stuff ends up being pushed to the back burner, and you don't finish until like 5 or 6 o'clock. But now I've been waking up at 8, so that's been a little bit better. But basically, when we start the day, I'm either creating a video, editing a video, and I wake up at 8 o'clock and have that done about 10 o'clock, maybe 10:30. I And then after that, I pick up my binder. I start printing out all the labels that we have, and then I go downstairs and I start packaging up all the coins that we have. Then we take all those coins to the post office. We get all the packages that we might get in, and then we have to basically, it's you're pricing every coin out. You're pricing how much you paid for it, and then we have to structure those coins in a certain video that would make more sense. So, say if we're talking about Indian head cents, or talking about high-end coins or modern coins, all of that has to be geared to specific days. They're uploaded on YouTube and the channel. And then we're also, so every other day is basically an upload day during the week. So we have to spend the nights filming, going through ideas, responding to all the DMs, responding to all the comments on YouTube. And then I have to actually go look for inventory again when we have excess money. And we also, so it's very interesting how everything kind of works. Every day can be different. And we also have like the stuff that we're trying to do with branding, create stickers, create shirts. And you also have to push everything else forward. So how is the website going to change, and how what we're buying is going to change? So it's a list of endless questions, but a lot of it doesn't end until, 9, 10, 11 o'clock at night. And then when you wake up the next day, you have, I mean, it's something that you don't want to take for granted, but you have like 15 messages on Instagram. You have 20 new comments on your YouTube channel, and then all of that. When can you do that during the day? So it's a very interesting topic, but it's something that you really have to focus on if you want to cultivate a community.
Yeah, I really like that. Cultivating a community. That's what like this sounds like really what your business kind of revolves around.
Exactly.
Sweet. Well, maybe we'll start wrapping up. Has been great to chat with you, Drew, and glad Isaiah can join us. And maybe if you have one piece of advice that you haven't given in a long time to the coin collector, who might be watching this, and then we'll touch base maybe in a month or 2 months or something like that. But yeah, what's one rare piece of advice?
So an advice I would have for somebody that's in this space is that the only way that you're going to really be able to stick out and be unequivocally you is that you have to be starving every single day of your life. If you're not starving, you'll end up being somebody else that falls behind or saying that the business won't work. If you're starving every day, you'll be willing to take risks. You'll be willing to think of new ideas. You'll be willing to be different from somebody else, even if it takes more time and more effort. So what I would say to somebody that wants it, I would say that you have to be starving every single day. You have to be willing to be better than everybody else. You have to be willing to leave your chair or leave whatever you're doing, after everybody else has already gone to sleep or ate dinner. So that's what I haven't really talked about in a while. But I think that if you're not starving, you're not going to be able to be different and set yourself apart from the rest of the coin dealers in the space.
All right. Thank you very much. And keep working hard. And I look forward, it's great to have people on, share their thoughts, opinions, and information and knowledge that people can gain from. And I'll see you in a few months.
Hey, thank you, Christian, and thank you, Isaiah, for having me on. And look forward to doing this again. You guys run a great channel, and I'm going to be watching some videos tonight for sure.
Thanks for watching the video. Be sure to like, comment your thoughts, and subscribe to Treasure Town, and get in touch with me on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. Also, check out my website, treasuretowncoins.com, for news and updates related to the channel and collectibles in general. Lastly, there's a link tree in the description with links to all of my other sites, as well as some affiliate links that can support the channel. But with that being said, have a great day, and I'll hope to see you on some of my videos in the future.